the skeleton of this giant in Ecuador is actually in the museum in Ecuador. Here it is, a 7-meter giant in a museum in Ecuador. We're dealing with real history of this planet that's been removed from us. What the freaking hell is going on here? And when the gods were on earth, there were giants. And this is a very important part of our history, our reality that we have to deal with. Somebody went to a lot of trouble to show these. It's a great little illustration of real giant discoveries. This is not somebody's theory. These are real ancient discoveries. We're extreme left, 6 feet tall there. That's a little guy there. That's us. But this is nothing compared to the real giants. The Jewish Encyclopedia talks about the giants and the Anakim are the same titanic race as the Rephaim, the Nephilim, the Gibborim, the Zamzumim, and the Emim. And the giants were between, it also tells us in the book of Enoch that the giants were between 300 and 3,000 ells tall. I'll talk more about that. That actually ranges from 130 meters to 1.5 kilometers tall. 1.5 kilometers, that's almost a mile tall. Okay, so rethink everything. If you've not contemplated this size before, start thinking about this. We're dealing with real history of this planet that's been removed from us, removed from our system, removed from our memories. This is part of it. So when we look at the Boskop skull, 20% larger than we are, and this is the Boskop skull on the left, found in South Africa as well. This is nothing. The bone of the giant found in Namibia that is at Wits University in Johannesburg, that's nothing. These guys may have been twice the size of us. And it gets more interesting. This footprint in China gets a little bit more interesting. But obviously the most beautiful footprint of a giant in a rock must be in South Africa, and it is. There it is. And you'll go and see this when you come one of our trips, a Sacred Sites tour, on one of the shorter trips that I'm putting together now, because I'm going to spend a lot more energy and focus on this in the coming months and years. This is a spectacular story about this, and Klaus Donner found in Ecuador a nose bone, a heel bone, and a skull fragment that was genetically tested in Vienna and proved to be humanoid and giant. And the skeleton of this giant in Ecuador is actually in the museum in Ecuador. Here it is. It's been reconstructed and it's actually in the museum. You can go and see it. A 7-meter giant in a museum in Ecuador. These were just small giants, because when you read Leviticus, it says that we were like locusts by their side. And in the book of Enoch, it says the giants were 3,000 ells tall. 1 ell is about just less than half a meter. That means it would make the giants 1.5 kilometers, or just less than 1 mile tall. And some of you may have seen the new discoveries of the giant trees that we seem to have lost around the world, that were somehow chopped down. I now believe that many of those trees were accompanied by giants as well, and we have lots of remains of giants. This might be a real giant heart of a giant 150 meters tall. And it just so happens that this, what I recently only saw as a rock that was strategically placed just beneath that giant footprint. This is a rock that's like a marker stone that's been placed there, very strategically, put upright and propped up with other rocks. And you see that little round thing there? That could be where the aorta came in. You can even see the little thing moving away from it. When you start looking at mud fossils and fossilized bones, things change quite dramatically. It's a complete metamorphosis and a change in mineralogy that happens during mud fossilization. It is a subject that not too many people know too much about. So I'm thinking, and we have some channelings and some shamanic readings and so forth that suggest that the Anunnaki may have been following the route of the giants and actually mining the leftovers and the remains, fossilized remains of the giants, and extracting the gold from the fossilized remains of the giants that were 1 mile tall, knowing that there'd be concentration of gold, especially in their feet, from the knees down. Especially if the giant died while it was standing up, then the gold would then filter down into the lower parts of the limbs.
Having explored the references to giants in ancient texts, we now turn to the fascinating evidence found in the stone circles of South Africa. These ancient structures not only reveal advanced energy technologies, but also provide tangible proof of the giants themselves through fossilized body parts embedded in the landscape.
It's obviously cymatics that we're dealing with. If you look at the stone circles from the air, by now you should realize that we're dealing with cymatics, or the shape of sound. Cymatic patterns from the earth. Every stone circle is simply a representation of the sound that comes out of the earth at that specific point. Very cleverly using the resonance and the subtle sound frequencies of Mother Earth and converting that into magnetic fields, into moving magnetic fields, electromagnetic fields, and electricity. And here we have a simple progression of creation: sound, magnetism, electromagnetics, and electricity. And from there, we realize that we're dealing with a giant energy grid, all connected, all the stone circles, and that's what this giant stone circle cluster in South Africa, Southern Africa, is all about. A giant energy grid, and it's still alive today. Some of them are built in the shape of magnetrons, these beautiful flower shapes that would give us insane amounts of energy. 2 magnetron scientists told me independently that one of these 40-meter diameter magnetrons built out of quartz would give us more energy than all the power plants on Earth combined today. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I'm not a magnetron scientist, but that's what they told me. And when you realize how powerful a tiny magnetron is, and a magnetron this size can cut metal in a split second, imagine how much energy a magnetron 40 meters in diameter can generate. And we measured these stone circles, we measured their frequencies. I'm not going to dwell on this because you've probably seen this before, but we measure in the gigahertz, very powerful electromagnetic fields in the very high megahertz as well, and also very powerful decibels, the power, the energy of the sound frequencies that we measured in the big stone circles that run into 30,000 decibels. This is an incredibly powerful tool. It's like a weapon. On Adam's calendar's measurements that just go through the roof. There we go, beyond 375 gigahertz. The sound that's connected to the mysterious stone tools and artifacts that I've been collecting for 11 years now. And like I said, the phallus stones are just spectacular. You can see this one and several others in my museum. This one, however, is a bit too big to carry. This comes from near Adam's calendar as well. Just like the stone man was removed from Adam's calendar, this giant phallus was also removed from close to Adam's calendar and put up at the forestry office. And then these, take a good look. Is this possibly a real phallus of a giant 150 meters tall? And the bird stones, I've already shown you the bird stones and the Zimbabwe birds and how this is all connected. The other mysteries are the cone-shaped tools. Again, Sunday I go into the science of the cone-shaped tools and cone-shaped technology in modern science and modern aeronautics today. This is just, you can't make this stuff up. These two, by the way, these two are not cone-shaped tools, because now I can see exactly what they are. That thing that I'm holding in my hand and the one on the right, those are fossils. Those are not cone-shaped tools. You'll see when we look at the fossils, you'll start to recognize and distinguish between the tools and the fossils. Once your eyes are open, you can never go back. Once I was blind, but now I can see it very clearly. And then the very important donut-shaped stones, or the Taurus stones, that play such an important role in pretty much all the signs and all of creation, combined with a cone-shaped technology. More than 100,000 sacred stones, or donut-shaped stones, or Taurus stones, at least. They just cover all of Southern Africa. And remember, our modern archaeologists still refer to them as weights for digging sticks. I'm not kidding you. They still do this. It's just laughable. So when you combine the toroidal stones, very powerful energy generating devices, with the cone-shaped tools, you have a powerful combination to create and project, manifest and use sound and Caesar beam technology. I want to remind you that the stones ring like bells. These are now in my museum. There are hundreds of them, and I know where there are thousands and thousands more. Literally mountains covered in fossilized body parts. This is the spectacular thing. I've been walking on these stones for 12 years, wondering, why are these stones this weird shape? This is probably the most beautiful fossil that I've found, and that is a heart. As you can see the coronal artery right across it. So we have teeth, hearts, ribs, claws, etc. Just to give you an idea. Some of the early pictures, first coming down the mountain. Here's a shoulder blade, or that part of the shoulder. I mean, that is like 10 times the size of a human shoulder blade. Here is a large bone, part of a bone knuckle. Here you can see my foot next to it, just to give you the idea of the size. The shaft would have gone out to the left of that bone. Which bone that is, I don't know. And then this, I mean, you know, when I first saw this, I was up the mountain with Emma, and we saw this, and we laughed. We said, wow, that looks just like a shoe or a foot. And we just ignored it. This was like 6 or 12 months before we realized that we're dealing with mud fossils. So we just left it lying there. We went back and went, oh my God, this is most likely somebody's foot. But it looks like it's in a shoe. It's like, what's going on here? And it's broken off around the ankle or just above the ankle. You know, there's another angle. You know, so this is mysterious stuff, people. Clearly that is not a stone, it's a bone. And in fact, those 3, you can see my feet at the top of that picture, so you can get a size. And all those lying next to each other, those are just bones and meat attached to it. The fascinating thing is that the fossilization process of these mud fossils takes these body parts, and this is why this is going to become an important study in geology, because they don't know this, and metallurgy. It completely transmutates into Hornfels rock, metamorphosized quartzite. You can hardly see the internal organs. Some of them that have broken, you can vaguely see stuff going on inside, but pretty much it just converts everything into Hornfels rock that rings like a bell. So many of the stone circles are actually made up of fossilized body parts. So the question is, what the hell is going on here? What the freaking hell is going on here? This is a piece of a spine, you know, that part at the top, that weird thing, I forget what it's called now. Here's a beautiful, the best example of a rib. The picture on the right shows you where it was attached to the rib cage. This is another picture of 3 ribs. Here is jawbone. This is a piece of a jawbone, this part of the jawbone that goes up there. And except this is like this size. So, you know, the head would have been this size. I don't know what this is, but we'll figure out what that is. This is another picture of that bone, and there below it is a claw. This is a claw from some animal, some creature. And this is one of my favorites. This is a hoof of a weird extinct creature. You can see on the top there where the bone would have come into the hoof, attached to it. This is another angle. See where the bone would have been attached to it. And this is just a group shot of fossilized body parts. There you can also see that jawbone piece there, second from the top left. And these are really fossilized chunks of meat with the skin attached to it still. Here's a close-up of the reptilian skin. Here's a beautiful example of how the reptilian skin has fossilized below the skin. Can you see those layers that grow towards the skin and then they become the skin, the complete fossilization? It becomes Hornfels rock. This is unknown in metallurgy or unknown in geology. This complete metamorphosis into rock. I don't know what this is, but this is an interesting piece that needs studying. And this is just a beautiful piece, because this is a chunk of meat that somebody was busy eating or clawing. You can see the teeth or claw marks in the steak with the flesh still on the outside. So I'd like to give you a little glimpse of some of the fossils that I've been collecting since January 2018. It is truly remarkable. Here we have, I'm just going to give you a short rundown of the display in the museum. Firstly, what we believed to be just ringing stones that ring like bells, are actually fossils and body parts. These are not just normal stones. I will go into great detail about the discovery, the significance, the kind of stone, and the metamorphosis that happens. Obviously, the Taurus stones like these are not part of the fossils. The Taurus stones are something very different and very unique and very important. But pretty much the rest of the stones that you see here are actually mud fossils of different body parts that just need to be investigated much more greatly and much more deeply. Here we have a shoulder blade or part of the shoulder, other body parts. You can clearly see these are bones that are fossilized. We have what looks to be like a coccyx over there. We have teeth. We have a heart. This is the big heart, the main heart that we've discovered. We have possibly dinosaur eggs. There's a claw, there's some teeth, and there's ribs, there's kidneys, and this over here seems to be part of a vertebrae, a backbone. And then we have ribs, very important ribs, and other body parts. Here you can see, for example, that's where the tendons over here, that's where the tendons would connect to whichever part of the body this is. Here also you have, there's where the tendons would connect in this area. And when you look this side, you start getting an idea of what's going on. These are not stones, these are actual body parts. What's interesting about the ribs is that this rib, for example, it looks like somebody cut it with a knife. So a lot more to be said about this. Here you can see where it was connected to the rest of the skeleton, and this here is probably by far the best rib that we've got, this long thin one. Here you can see where it was connected to the rib cage down here, and so much more. There is another rib there by the looks of it, and that is clearly a bone that is fossilized. You can see that's a beauty. And here we have very strange hoof of a creature, a claw or a hoof of a creature that is now extinct. This is where the leg bone would have come in, and the hoof actually would have stood up like this. The animal would have stood on the hoof like that. I recently noticed that my Wonderstone that cracked and broke some 11 years ago when I first put it into the museum, into several pieces, has developed a new crack. And this is a very significant new event here in the Stone Circle Museum. That's what remains of the original Wonderstone. These are known as the Clarkstorp spheres. They're mysterious stones that are billions of years old, and many people believe that they're actually made by intelligent beings, that they're not natural formations. And this is a huge breakthrough observation, because this stone that was given to me as a gift for the museum in early 2008, after about 6 months of me placing it in the museum, cracked and started developing a big crack, and eventually after several months just split into two, and then it continued breaking and splitting more and more. Eventually ended up in these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces, and a few smaller ones. And it's been like this for at least 10 years now. And then suddenly I noticed the other day when I had a tour group in here that the large piece has just developed a new crack. And this is a huge new, I guess, discovery. And I'm not sure what the stuff is that's growing on this. This is part of the ongoing research and investigation that has to happen here. But this Wonderstone has now developed a new crack, and that piece there eventually will break into two, and who knows if it continues breaking into more pieces. That dark spot in the middle is the center piece of this stone, this Wonderstone, or the Clarkstorp sphere as they are known. And this is a huge significant event, and I will go into deep explanation why this happened, because now I finally have irrefutable probability, statistical argument, I guess, if I can put it that way, why the stone broke and why it suddenly started to crack again. So let me finish the story. And the story is that when I met Creator Mutwa, I asked him about the Clarkstorp spheres. And I said, what were these? And he said they were ancient sources of light. They were used like light bulbs. They were very sensitive to frequency, and at a specific frequency they would just become light, give off light. And I thought, oh, Creator, you lost your mind, that's sorry, dude, man. So guess what was lying 3 meters away from this Clarkstorp sphere? The Taurus stone that crashed the TSA security system. Since then I removed it, and it's been at my home, because I don't want to bring that into public space, because it could kill people. No, I'm just kidding. But I got gifted, or not gifted, I bought a bunch of Taurus stones from one of the farm laborers on a farm about 100 kilometers away. I went and picked up a whole bunch of these Taurus. You see the Taurus stones that were in the middle of the table display? All those ones, and more that I put under the stone that's on display, the Wonderstone. So that Wonderstone had cracked into these 6 pieces, and then I removed the Taurus stone from the museum. I put new Taurus stones close to it, and within a year it developed a new crack. So it is now pretty evident that it was the Taurus stone that crashed the TSA system that caused this Wonderstone to break into many pieces. Now these other new Taurus stones have caused it to start cracking again. This is huge. And this makes me believe that maybe Creator Mutwa was right. That maybe these wonder stones were actually sources of light in ancient times when exposed to subtle frequencies.